in, but I would say let's get started.
I can confirm from the chat that people can hear us. So, Sophie, the stage is yours.
Okay, so welcome everybody and thank you for joining us today. My name is Sophie Blum and I'm the Vice Chairwoman of PNG Alumni Women Leadership Network. I'm really delighted to have you all today, and I'm your host for this amazing panel. Some of you may ask, who are you? I mean, what is this? I mean, I never heard about this group. Hopefully not, but we never know. We never know. So let's be very inclusive today. First and foremost, I want to thank our chairwoman, Luan Eckert, that is really our source of inspiration. And we are simply a group of passionate PNG women alumni. I think that's probably the one word I would say, and I hope you will feel throughout the panel today. We are just passionate and positively, I would say, inspired to impact each other and hopefully to contribute our modest way to a better tomorrow. So I think that's the way we love to express ourselves. Our mission is very simple as a group worldwide, is to foster and to opportunities and to enable impact of PNG women alumni worldwide. We are trying to, together with you, hopefully, and with our wonderful panelists today, to create a very vibrant community where things are happening. This year already in 24, a lot of stuff has happened. We have renewed our strategy. We are very focused now on 3 areas. Leadership with a coaching program, advancement, promotion and advancement of women career with a newly creating board program, and creating meaningful connection, our 3rd focus area. And this panel today is giving us this opportunity. So one already big renewed and element. We have done also a lot of gatherings, some physical. Some of you maybe were with us in Geneva in March. We had also a gathering in Singapore in February, another one in Miami in April, another one in Tel Aviv in May, and more to come as we go. So this is really, I would say, starting to continue to grow. And last but not least, we have few events online. We had an author panel event in March, very inspiring. And today we have this very special event coming. Why special? First, because you are all special and our panelists are very special, but also because it came from listening to you and to our community on what matters to you. And I think that you can see on my background, on mine it's written impactful leadership in action. And why it's so important to overall have leadership in action and being impactful, it's probably because one of the most, I would say, fulfilling part is to dare to proactively think about what change can I do? And today, it takes really, I think I see a hand. Luan, you want to intervene or say something?
No, keep going.
Okay, that's live. So that there is no, I cannot hide that it is taped or recorded. It is live, so like any TV, I would say show, it is live. We take as it goes. You'll see my style is very, anyway, very live and straight, so no stress. So I was saying, I mean, it takes personal leadership really to, I would say, envision a change and make it happen. And today I have an immense pleasure, first and foremost, to have you all, but also a very personal one, which is to have Julie Gosalvez to moderate our panel. Alors, some of you know Julie very well, some maybe a little bit less. For me, it's a true pleasure, but also a pretty big pride that I have having Julie here, because she is definitely a personal source of inspiration for me. Why so? Like many of you maybe, but why so specifically Julie? Because Julie, not only being a friend, but also a P&G alumni, 15 years, super successful, and then leaving to some fashion brand, the most known in the world, the big names, I don't do name dropping, so, but the big names of this world. And then she had the courage and the daring, this kind of daring and courage to say, you know what, I'm going to pivot. I want my life to be centered around something else and to have a meaningful impact on sustainability. Good, that's already very courageous. No, not only. Second, I changed completely the type of environment I go to startup world. I create a team, I create external presence, I create, I would say, the strategy needed in order to have a place and make a meaningful change. All of this, never compromising on 3 kids, a wonderful partner, always with a smile, keeping all the balls in the air. This rings a bell to some of you, I guess. And never compromising on what really matters. So that's why I'm personally, I would say, touched, but also very, very proud of having Julie leading here, and definitely spot on. I mean, what a better theme than pivoting career and navigating through changing, but always being proactive on what the hell is ahead, and being able to demonstrate through action impactful leadership in action. So that's a little bit the program for today. I cannot thank enough our panelists. Thank you for joining us and taking on your time. Logistic-wise, I'm also there in order to do a bit of logistics. So of course, there is time for questions. We love it. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, you have a chat, so you can write, I would say, the questions. I think we have we're going to go, we're going to go directly to the Q&A one. Don't write on the chat, it's too disturbing. Write on the Q&A one if you have any questions. I will read them so that it's not disturbing for the panelists and for Julie. We will pause after each part, and I will read the question so that it's okay. And if we have some links to put in the, I would say, in the chat, I will put them there also. Without further ado, I look forward to a very, very exciting conversation. Julie, up to you.
Thank you, Sophie. Thanks for the introduction and the very, very kind words. Super happy to be here. Super happy to have been part of the strategy renewal of the group. So really, for me, what sparked the suggestion of today's theme was when I pivoted, right, and I decided I wanted more than what I had learned in the last years. The number one question I kept getting on a weekly basis was not why, but how. Like, how did you do it? How did you land that job? How did you get the right contact? And so now it's for me time a bit to give back and hopefully inspire people with also practical advices on how to do it and also what it looks like. And I think we're very blessed when we in P&G with regular training, regular coaching, the most advanced management and marketing and functional expertise and techniques. We can change jobs, levels, function, countries, business units every 2 years. So we live in a very stimulating environment, right? And that's wanting to really have that again also drove my interest. But that's not about me. I also really wanted to have people who can speak to that change from different background, different function, different countries, and women that I've met years back, more recently, that are also very high inspiration from everything that they've achieved and how they're now navigating their careers. I'll let them introduce themselves before we dig into a few topics, but you'll see that they have integrated sustainability in their job, taken the initiative or responded to a business needs in very different way, worked into business, and also now more non-profit organization for Clemence, for instance. So it's a very diverse panel, hopefully giving you some perspective on if you haven't done it yet, why and more elements to do it, but also how and what does it take to do it. So without without further introduction, I'd like every panelist to give maybe a couple of words on your background, your context, and the relevance of your experience to the topic. And Ellen, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you.
The veteran sustainability. So we want to hear it all.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'll start with my background. I'm an engineer. I started my career with Procter & Gamble in product supply at the Mahoupany plant in Pennsylvania. And I spent 20 years working in manufacturing. I worked in 5 different plant locations in the United States. I worked in diaper making, paper making, coffee and juice, and I was the plant manager at 2 of those plants. In 2001, I transferred to Cincinnati in a juice supply chain role. And then in 2004, P&G decided to sell the juice business, and I decided to go with the new opportunity to get the smaller company experience as a senior VP of product supply. While I was there, it was an interesting experience because it was a startup, but we were 800 million in sales day one, but it had all the experiences of starting up a company. In 2006, our customers started really asking us to develop a sustainability program. So the CEO at that time, my boss, asked me to develop a program for our company as a part of my product supply responsibilities. As you can imagine, at that time, we didn't know much about what that would look like. So I had an opportunity to create a program for the company. I did what I could. I started with educating myself. I went to conferences and where they had sustainability education sessions. I took advantage of all of those. We did field trips. We went to the local landfill, recycling centers. At the time, the Cincinnati Zoo was the greenest zoo in the nation. So we went and found out what they were doing. I looked for resources that knew more about sustainability than I did. So with all that knowledge, I built a multifunctional team. So every function in the company was represented on a steering team because this was going to be a full company program. We set goals and energized our workforce to achieve those goals. And we also used our suppliers to help us build out our program, whether it was in supply chain or material suppliers. In 2007, we launched our program, which was focused on people, planet, and profit. And early in the process, in my learning about sustainability, I realized it was all about eliminating waste. Since we had Procter & Gamble plants, they were integrated in integrated work systems, which we had formed into a lean manufacturing program, which was all about getting zero waste. So we named our program Lean to Green, and that was our sustainability program. We took a very practical approach. We focused on quick wins and built from there. And we made progress all along the supply chain in almost every area. But one of our early achievements was reaching zero waste to landfill, which was a goal that some people thought couldn't be done. And we did it by eliminating 95% of our waste. We reduced our waste, which brought a lot of money to the bottom line. We reused and we recycled our waste. Now I am retired, but sustainability is still a passion. And I found a way to still get involved in sustainability. I'm part of our local government's Environmental Advisory Council. And we provide counsel to the town on development opportunities that are going in a sustainable way. We work on land preservation, creating native plant spaces, and citizen education. I also serve on the League of Women Voters as our Director of Environmental Policy, really focused on providing citizens with the information on how they can help and make change to prevent climate change. So thank you for this opportunity to meet with you all, and I'll turn it back to Julie.
Thank you, Ellen. It's really inspiring to see how you see this opportunity right, to embed sustainability at the core of your job, even before that was a buzzword. I always find it very inspiring every time I hear the story. Maybe Anke, you can start, by sharing briefly also, what led you to now being the CSO of ABB, a very large industrial group based in Switzerland, and continue being that trailblazer that I knew you for in P&G already.
Thank you, Julie, and thanks also, Sophie, for enabling us to have this panel and to inspire many others out there to potentially follow us. So I joined P&G in 1999 as financial analyst in food and beverages. And my first impact actually was, for the ones who remember, to stop the Sunny Delight test market in Turkey, which was actually good because there was an earthquake the same weekend there, so which we avoided. Then I moved into profit forecasting, and I was in charge of delivering the Euro pricing introduction for Pringles and Punica. Then moved into Femcare, where I met Clemence. And there, one of the things I did is, for the insiders, I implemented the one-piece RPW, which at that time delivered obviously on convenience and also waste elimination. So some things starting there. Then I moved to baby care. Had two wonderful boys. That's what you do when you're in baby care, apparently. And I was, as one of the key things I'm proud of, is I was able to expand the partnership with UNICEF. So I was part of really negotiating that we were able to expand it to other brands, but even expanding it beyond the initial cost that we were only paying for the liquid and not for the delivery. So that was a big step. And then I was fortunate to meet Julie by moving into the prestige team, and I was the key procurement person there, purchases person, sorry, in P&G language. And there, one of the key things was really to drive the supply chain synchronization, working with suppliers. And of course, as Ellen just said, it's very much about waste. One of the examples, the Dolce & Gabbana bottles, glass bottles, were produced for 6 hours, being thrown away until we reached the right quality. So obviously we had to drive an intervention there. And you can only imagine, thinking backward now, what waste was generated and what energy and emissions were generated. So this has been always part of what I was doing. In 2010, actually, I was in charge at some point for all the flexible packaging across all our different brands. And back then I put a requirement on our suppliers, which was they had to innovate on price, agility, product, and sustainability. So in 2010, somehow, I started seeing this concept, something needs to happen. In 2016, then P&G obviously decided to sell our 42 brands to Coty. I think this decision happened in 2017, but I was part of the whole due diligence process to carve out contracts and making sure the P&G team lands in a good place and our suppliers continue serving us. So that was a very interesting experience. But I took the opportunity, received a call, and I ended up leaving for Tetra Pak. And so I spent 6 years at Tetra Pak. And my first intervention there was to pretty much state on the intranet that my job is to eliminate my job. Why did I say this? Because I was buying aluminium foil for Tetra Pak, and Tetra Pak shouldn't have aluminium foil in there because it makes it hard to recycle. And so I actually succeeded after 6 years. I was part of the innovation, really, of launching in May 2022 the first Tetra Pak without aluminium foil on the Italian market. And on the journey to get there, I actually took over innovation procurement, and I asked to also get sustainability on top. So it was a very conscious choice. And of course, most of the innovation was centered around sustainability. So you see an early start of, okay, I wanted to do something, I got sustainability on top. I launched at Tetra Pak an initiative called Join Us in Protecting the Planet. That was designed by pretty much all the suppliers or the key suppliers. And I have to say, knowing what I know today, I would never call it again the same thing. So this was a handmade campaign. Unfortunately, by now, I'm very clear the planet will survive. It's a question if we will still be on the planet. So the planet doesn't need protection, all the ecosystems that are on it. Now my role is, since December 2022, Group Head of Sustainability at ABB. As Julie highlighted, it's a big industrial company, 107,000 employees, 33 billion turnover. And my role really is to make sure that the company is walking the talk, because the products are at the center of the energy transition, which is great. So we're really contributing to what's needed to make the shift. But of course, my role then is making sure that the company also makes sure we are doing our part and contributing. I'm also a member of the board of directors of ABB Germany and of the German school in Geneva. So I still have my links to Geneva. And yeah, very happy to share more insights as we go.
Thank you, Anke, for highlighting also the opportunity that you took to just ask for more, right? Which I think is a great insight as well. Sometimes it's all about asking, and you might as well get it. So that's a basic tip, but that always works. Last but not least, Clemence, you'll hear from her in a second, has a fascinating journey towards also via startup stage. So on top of both having 3 kids, we had a lot of exchange recently on the different environments that we operate in. But Clemence, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Julie and Sophie, and it's great to be here in such a good company with Ellen and Anke. So my journey started in 2004. And technically, it wasn't quite yet P&G. I joined through the Gillette acquisition. So I actually started my career right after business school into Gillette in Germany, working for the Braun headquarters on straighteners. Clearly, you can see it, but also silk appeal brands. So on the women's side of brand. And at that time, Gillette was still an independent company. The merger happened in 2005, which is how I joined the P&G family. And I stayed 3 years in Germany. And in 2008, I moved to Geneva as an ABM at the time. And I started on FemCare. And I really enjoyed FemCare. So I actually had a very long period on FemCare. And it's a big business unit, and it has a lot of different jobs. So there I really had the chance to work with many different teams. So I'm not an engineer like Ellen. I'm a marketeer. So I stayed in marketing, but I worked in the regional business unit for Western Europe at the time. Then I moved to Naturella on the global side. And then I moved back into liners, so doing more end-to-end at what was then EMEA region. So always very different environment. And finally, in 2017, then I joined what was a sector sustainability initiative. So I think one of the point was, how do you get into sustainability? I've always wanted to work in sustainability, and then life happens, right? From my studies at the beginning, I took what was called at the time in my MBA corporate citizenship. That was the class that was like prior to all of the work that we're all doing right now. And I think it's been in my WNDP since the very first day I'd like to work on sustainability, and there were no opportunity, but things happen and things evolve. Actually, sustainability started in FemCare, at least in Europe. It was the marketing director from FemCare was the very first person nominated with a certain percentage of her time being on sustainability, and then it did transfer to Fabric and Home Care to Virginie, who did all of the great things that we can also see today. But in 2017, I joined the paper business unit, so femcare and baby care, and work on sustainability. It was more internally focused still at the time on how do we make sure we communicate all of the great work that people like Helen were doing. How do we talk about zero manufacturing waste to landfill? How do we really make sure that sustainability is embedded in everything that we're doing? And we know P&G has been really pioneering that thinking, not making it an extra thing, but really embedding it into all of the initiative and the work that every single employee does it. Julie already mentioned it. I'm not only a marketer and a professional, but I'm also a mom of 3. And during my 3rd maternity leave, my husband came with a very good opportunity to move the family and go and live in Florida for 3 years. And I had so far always said no to any move because I really enjoyed the life in Geneva as a family, but I really run short of argument when it came to moving to the beach for a couple of years. So we took that bet, and that actually at the end of my maternity leave then made me leave the company because there was limited options in Florida. But actually the next opportunity came also through P&G, as when I was on the sustainability role and working also with Virginie and her team at the time, I met a very interesting person who at the time was a lot in Geneva. His name is Tom Zaki, and he is the founder and CEO of TerraCycle, who was the company that actually did, some of you might have seen or remember, the Head & Shoulders beach bottle, and then many of the initiatives that related to how you transfer waste back into the product that P&G manufacture. And Tom and I had met, and we actually got along. And when, after settling my family in Florida, I've been ready, then I reached back to the company and started working for a project that was a crazy idea on a piece of paper called Loop, which is let's not do recycling, but let's do reuse, and let's move all packaging in any type of category, in any material or anything, into reusable product. And let's do this at broad scale globally across multi-billion-dollar brands and retailers. And we did it for 5 years. So I was the general manager for Loop, and worked very closely still with the P&G team that was really involved, but also with many other multinationals across Asia, Europe, and North America mainly. And the adventure of the startup has been very different from the P&G world, to say the least, and very exciting. I learned a lot, and I transitioned to the next role last December. So I'm now working at the World Economic Forum. I'm the director for the Global Plastic Action Partnership. So this word, as the title say, it talks about plastic. So we are very involved into plastic pollution, solution, and elimination. So I actually left the private sector for the nonprofit, and now are trying to find solution, bringing a lot of different stakeholders around the tables, from government to private sector, but also NGOs and local community. A strong focus in developing countries in the work that we do nationally across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, and a strong global focus, as some of you might know, but actually the United Nations are negotiating a treaty to end plastic pollution, which has been ongoing since 2022. So that's also a process I'm very involved in. So I think that's a good summary, Julie, but I bring it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Clemence. And we obviously wish you all the best, because we need the, utmost level of collaboration to fight plastic pollution. But one of the things that was highlighted is how to land such an opportunity. And Anke, you mentioned ask for it. I'll add the second one. The second one is basically connecting with alumni. In my journey, I didn't necessarily do it on purpose, but I happened, to meet someone who was involved already with the climate tech scene, and who had heard about opportunity. And that's how the relationship came aboard and how I heard about the opportunity and could make the transition. So this is just a reminder that, our network as alumni is utterly powerful, and the connection we can cultivate, are a true enabler. But I'd like to add maybe, from you, Ellen, one thought of, with the breadth of your experience that spans much beyond sustainability, what is your number one maybe advice for people to land that job, right? Asking for it, leveraging alumni. What is one that you would add, to that? If someone, in the audience says, I really, really want to do it, but I don't really know where to start, what would you advise them to do?
Two thoughts come to mind. One is, like as you mentioned, use your network. I just had a conversation with a Lehigh University student, which is where I went to school. I had a conversation with her yesterday. She's looking for her first job. And she knew me from some of the work I had done on campus, talking about sustainability. So she reached out to me and she asked this question: how do I even get started? The great thing is I've got a really good network that I can help tap her into. But it gets to your point of ask. And then find people who can, help you within your network and even maybe outside of your network, just reaching out, being curious. The other part of it is sustainability, and it was mentioned several times, is all of our responsibilities. We can make an impact and a difference in our personal lives, but also in our corporate lives. And how do you do it in your corporate life? It's look for the need. If you use the approach, it's about eliminating waste. We all know there's lots of waste within our company. Find the compelling reason that the company should start doing a focus on sustainability if they're not already, or in an area where they aren't doing it, and show them the money. The thing about our sustainability program, it didn't cost us any more money. When the getting to zero waste to landfill, I mentioned we reduced waste, which saved a lot of money. We weren't shipping trash to the landfill anymore. So we were saving expense. We were even at the time, we were able to sell corrugate and metal scrap. So we actually had a revenue stream. So those are all manufacturing examples, but there are other examples that we did within the office around eliminating paper. We also looked for ways to deal with our food scrap. At the time, there weren't composting companies. There are companies out there now that can help with dealing with waste that you can't recycle. So there are different ways for folks to, in their corporate lives, to make an impact. The other thing is, depending on where you are in the company, especially if in your consumer packaged goods, there's lots of opportunity to make more sustainable products. And, if you're in the product design piece, I know P&G has done a lot of work in that area. It's always another great place to start, because at the end of the day, and this was one of my negatives, at the end of the day, when someone buys our product and consumes it, you have a plastic bottle left. And so we looked for ways how to reduce the pounds of plastic, but also how to offset the negatives by working with nonprofits, Keep America Beautiful. And we ended up going into schools and teaching kids about recycling and sustainable careers. So there are different ways to, if you can't land that job, there are different ways to have an impact where you are.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Ellen. One of the things that also comes back, is that sometimes people feel, now sustainability is really wide, or also it requires specific skills, right? So maybe it would be interesting, to hear from you, Anke, what are the skills, the general skills, right, that we all experiment at P&G that are the most, maybe the top 2, right, that are the most transferable from the P&G experience to the sustainability world, because I fundamentally believe that's more about the skills that you transfer than the industry that you expect in, but that's sometimes something that, you know, takes a bit of gymnastics to think about. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
You're speaking to a gymnast. No, I'm joking. So you're fully right. My current boss at ABB actually presenting me very early on said, Anke comes with a business background. So that obviously was a very important part, because the transferable skills that I've been using for sure has been linking, leveraging, you know, that's one that we used to as a term at P&G purchases. But the biggest one is really making sure you understand where the P&L responsibility is, what KPIs are being measured, what is driving the business, what's the business model, and how do I find ways to embed sustainability into what the respective organization needs to drive? What are people measured against? And how do I make sure that I find a way to make sustainability an inherent part of this? And of course, what does it go back to, which is, this is value creation. And speaking obviously to the marketeers on the panel here, luckily I've been working with amazing marketeers in P&G. So it's very clear that I need to understand what is working, what's not working with our customers, and what are they asking for, and how to then bring this back and really understand the different stakeholders, which goes a bit back to our CMK knowledge, you can say. So I'm really taking in my current role all the knowledge I can from what different stakeholders want. These are investors, these are banks, these are customers. In the future, this will also be suppliers, because suppliers will become very choiceful of whom they supply to, just given that they might have made a lot of advances on their sustainability journey. And then they have to be very clear, okay, in their scope 3 for the experts on emissions, actually it has an impact if you to supply to someone who has not made the same advances on their sustainability journey. So taking all the stakeholder feedback and creating a compelling business need out of it is really something that I know I'm benefiting from my P&G experience and from having learned, you know, how to create value and business model thinking. The other part, of course, is curiosity. I wouldn't be where I am right now if I would have not always been curious, and I loved, you know, with all our job changes, going again into new industry, learning new things. So keeping the curiosity alive, asking questions, even if you know many people have asked them before you, because innovation is there all the time and things are changing. So this time you might get a different answer. So don't be opposed of feeling, oh, this question probably everyone has asked before. It doesn't matter. The circumstances change. So be brave, be courageous, be curious. And then the other one is, of course, project management. Or the executional part, you could say. Of course, you could always say the 5 leadership skills, you know, that's the easy one. But if I focus for a moment on the executional skills, I just read a report yesterday from all the 22,000 companies that have reported to CDP, the Climate Disclosure Project. They actually take about 12 to 18 months to establish their value chain emissions. And then another 12 months until they make any commitment. I actually delivered last year, after half a year in the job. I started in May, and in November, we committed the net zero targets for ABB. And it has been an amazing effort with 19 divisions doing their bottom-up calculation of emissions. And when I saw yesterday this fact, I was like, yeah, that's project management skill. Otherwise, I would have never succeeded to do this on time. And so that's another transferable skill. And last example of what you could do if you're not yet sure how to get into the area and you want to do something and have an impact, which is actually one of my key drivers, having a positive impact. There is something called the climate fresk, and it's a French thing. It was generated by Professor Ringbach in Paris when he realized his students couldn't really explain what happens with climate change. So I'm a coach, a trainer of Climate Fresk. So you can Google this, climatefresk.org. Get involved, become a trainer and start training kids or adults. And it doesn't need so much deep knowledge, but just trying to become a trainer, you ground yourself in, what are some basics, in this case, on climate change and what impact it has. So become a trainer on Climate Fresk is one of the ideas. Happy to shed more later on how I did my education, which has been a bit more complex than just the Climate Fresk.
That's amazing, but it's good to share with everyone, and we can share the links and to all the references, everyone shared. And I have one last question, and of course it's for you, Clemence, before we make sure we have some room for the Q&A. So of course any change doesn't come with challenges, and you were confronted with a double challenge of the topic area, right, that you started at P&G, and maybe the company structure, right, with in the very early days of a startup. Maybe what were the maybe two things that were the most challenging in that, and what was your way to overcome them? Or now that you look back, what would be your best tips to overcome them for our audience?
So I think it's a mix between keeping the strength, right, which Ellen and Anke have talked about, that you've learned almost your own career, but also forgetting them at the same time, and like erasing all of your processes, what you think work, etc., and try to be open for new thinking. I think what has challenged me the most is forget what I have been taught and how I've been operating in P&G to a certain extent, to like open my mind to a different way of thinking, a completely different approach. Julie and I had the chance to discuss this at length. The world of startup is a very different word. I think the sentence that I didn't know existed before when I was in P&G, and that I've been ending up using the most, is we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And like you actually learn not to know exactly where you're going, roughly know the direction, but like put one step after the other and actually create the path. So you don't go on a path and you don't choose one as opposed to the other, but you create your own path, and that takes many different shapes, many different forms and direction, and you feel you're in constant evolution. So it's about being agile, it's about staying curious, being open-minded, and really trying to respect what's happening around you, even if you think like this is way different than how I was operating before. So very different environment, different people you also have to work. We also saying we're very blessed in P&G that we're working with people that are also extremely committed and that have the same passion and the same culture. The world out there show passion also in a different way and show skills in a different way. So you're also working with people that have very various background and how to bring the value of everyone at the table, especially when you're in a small structure like a startup where everyone has to be a Swiss knife and do a little bit of everything. I've opened my mind to so many different topics. Some I really loved and I enjoy. I actually enjoyed learning about the technical piece, like getting your hand dirty, really hardcore. How many different types of stainless steels there is in the world, which is mind-blowing. Some that I really hated, like get a contract together, how does the legal wording looks like, but like you have to get into this. So also get out of your comfort zone, get out of what you've been taught or experiencing. Like I wasn't a marketeer. I was like whatever needed to be done on the moment where it needed to be done. I also think one thing I really enjoyed in my startup experience is the ability to fail and to learn from it. And I know we're saying we're doing this in P&G, and it's true to a certain extent, but this is brought to a very different magnitude. When you are more startup world, it's all about failing. And actually, if you haven't failed, you're not doing your job right. But it's about failing and learning from it, so to make sure you don't reproduce the failure a second time. So the real failure is actually doing something a second time again without having gotten the learnings from it. So I think that was really a rich experience, because I really learned to fail and make mistakes at many different levels, from an interaction to being on a panel, to any type of activities you can think of. And then I've learned a lot from that process.
Thank you, Clemence. Very, very inspiring. I think, from my part, I realized that, P&G is obviously a very large company, sometimes feeling like you're in a matrix. But at the end of the day, the spirit of the bottom-up, culture and the encouragement and the ownership and responsibility that's given, right from the start to everyone is also very similar to entrepreneurial environment, right? You change assignments every 2 years. And that requires a lot of agility and learning on the job, as well as curiosity on what your new country, new manager, new team, new consumer requires. I think there's a lot of parallel, and that shouldn't be scary then to move into different structure like a startup. So I want to ask one last question, before we have some time for the panels. Is given this breadth of the job that's now in sustainability, hopefully we've encouraged everyone to consider what's the best way out there to work for it. But maybe Ellen, a very short final thought on how do you see, since you've joined sustainability topic a long time ago, how did you see and how do you see the trends for the types of job in sustainability evolving? And what are the emerging areas that can be most relevant to P&G alumni?
Well, I've seen from the time that I started to where we are now, there's a lot more resources out there. So there are a lot of sustainability careers. When I was trying to find someone from a consulting basis to help me, I went to an engineering company that was working with the government. And had a sustainability department, but there weren't many out there. Now you find them all over and the reason is companies are realizing they need to make an impact. It's not everybody, but they need to make an impact. The other places where I've seen it is in institutions. Colleges now have sustainability programs. Because they recognize the need. And as I mentioned, in Pennsylvania, all our local towns have environmental advisory councils. So I just see it growing. And the companies are different. They're companies providing solutions, new ideas, engineering technologies, advancing the technologies that we have. For an example, solar panels. I couldn't get solar to pay out. It was a 30-year payout. I could not justify that to my company at the time. Now the payouts are a lot shorter. So we continue to make advances because more and more people are going into these careers. But it's one of these things that I believe it's going to take everybody doing their part to make a difference, because we can't just say, oh, well, electric cars is going to take care of the problem, or something else is going to take care of the problem. The problems are so vast now that it really, as I say, it takes a village. It's going to take our global community making a difference and making a change. And we'll see more and more emphasis placed on sustainability resources. So I think the job opportunities are vast. And we also need that creativity. We need that diversity and creativity. The one skill, and Anke did a really good job talking about the skills, but it's that, getting diverse teams to provide that creativity around problem solving that gets you thinking outside the box on what the solutions are. So I see lots of opportunity out there for anyone who wants to embark in a sustainability career.
Amazing, Ellen. I think that's, it's going to take everybody. It's really an inspiring, moment to pose before we turn to the crowd for questions. So first, a very warm thank you to all of you for this session. And Sophie, maybe you want to share some questions that you've seen along the way?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, thank you for the insights. I think I summarized for some of you the tips in order to look at the job. You have also in the chat the climate fresque. The connection, and also a link for better education. So you have some that Anke shared. So you have some linked over there. We have a few questions, definitely. So I'm going to read them to you, and we'll see who are taking them. So now one from Liz. Overall, I'm currently pursuing MBA Leadership and Sustainability. So first and foremost, congratulations, Liz. This is fabulous, and definitely a topic. I will bring the leadership topic at the end for sure. For those who have been working in big companies, some of us, do you see a shift in leadership competencies to better align with UN objectives? Okay, so someone wants to take that. Julie, you want to take? You've seen a lot in this area, so go ahead.
So, well, I mean, the answer for me is yes and no in a way, because leadership is a skill, right? And Sophie can talk about that for everyone. But leadership is a skill, and that's probably the #1 skill that we are trained on, right, at P&G. And that doesn't go away, and it's critically needed for everything related to climate, because it's leadership with yourself. We heard a lot about like educating yourself, be curious. It's leadership with your team, create a diverse team, step in any other function shoes whenever that's needed to just get the job done. Leadership of your stakeholder management, that's more and more required as the topic grows in importance. So definitely leadership and sustainability is a great intersection to start with, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of synergies, Liz, with your P&G experience. I think there are some hard skills, right, that are useful depending on where you sit into the organization or which topic you decide to tackle, which can go from carbon accounting, right, and carbon credits, which can get very technical, but also to recycling and waste management, or food, or energy, right, that you might want to add and intersect that with the leadership, depending on your industry. But that goes back to, okay, if I want to make a difference in that area, or with the opportunity I have in company A or team B, then you need to cross that and complement that. So I think that's hard managerial skills still badly needed to get the project forward, but technical expertise might also be required. And I found for myself, so I landed into a very niche area of climate tech, which is carbon removal. So ping me if you want to learn more about this science of removing CO2 from the atmosphere. But that got very technical, right? But at the same time, I got really excited about learning about the science, talking with engineer, understanding how best to position that. Really, that was part of a really strong learning exercise and part of the excitement on the job. So I'm sure, there are enough ways to make a difference, enough areas, enough science-driven initiative and companies for everyone to find the one that's most exciting them from a technical area.
Wonderful, very inspiring answer, and definitely, given the fact that I probably have also a bit more experience, and I'm seeing many of you, sustainability and leadership spot on. So guarantee an exciting job ahead and exciting opportunities. So Keep it up. That's wonderful. Another question we have, that is a very big question. So I think I want to manage expectation in terms of answer. It's from Ali. Sustainability has become a really important tool in the battle against climate change and other social, environmental, and economic challenges. Yes. Given the challenge we are living nowadays in Middle East, African countries, how can we ensure water for future generation and avoid massive immigration and notably climate refugees from southern countries to northern countries, especially to Europe and America? So overall, how do we leverage the resources in order to become a bit more autonomous worldwide in countries rather than necessitating, I would say, massive migration across, I would say, the world and continents, if I take a big picture there. So it's a nice, I would say, it's a nice question. Maybe some insight someone wants to share on building local capabilities, because at the end of the day, that's about that.
Clemence, you want to go first?
Clemence, you
No,
want to
I'm happy to start. Yes, it's a big question, and I think you can choose to see the glass half empty or see the glass half full, and it's unfortunately easy. And I also can speak for myself in the work that we're doing. So we have initiatives on water, we have initiative on system and resource resilience, adaptation, etc. Even for us, like it's hard to find a good news in the news. Sometimes we have at the World Economic Forum, we talk about tipping points. If you read those reports, they will tell you like we passed half of the tipping points, which are going to be life-changing, not only for ourselves, but also for our children and their children. And that's actually really worrying. But I think the one advice, the one thing I heard actually from a scientist is how you connect this mind, so this understanding of the issue, and every one of us in our respective field, to Ellen's point, has a role to play and has a specific skill that they can apply to your heart, making you care. And I think we all do, especially if we hear, but to connect them to your hands and actually start doing. So that's what I'm really choosing to think is, what is the impact that we can have? How can we make at all level in every single action every day a little difference? Let it be on the personal side, and then I also know those of us who have kids, like kids teaches us every single day a good habits that we can take, not take our convenience for granted. So that's the personal side, but also as a professional, there is something in your job every single day that can change. It might not be directly related to water, right? I don't want to be too specific on everything, but I think in the big scheme of sustainability, business is not different from sustainability. And yes, there is the question around profit. Ellen brought a lot of examples of how you can actually deliver business benefit and sustainability. I think it's about how do you find that magic point, those synergies that enables to do improvement on the environmental, but also on the human side. Anke said it, right? It's not the planets that needs protection, it's all lives that are affected. It's us changing. It's the flooding that we're seeing in Switzerland, the hurricane season in Florida that is starting right now, and any of those natural disaster, and how we can try all of us to change. It doesn't take one person to do everything perfect, but like hundreds of people to do things imperfectly. And I think we can all make a step forward.
Thank you, Clemence. So everyone can start tomorrow
Absolutely.
having a little action for big impact.
Absolutely. And what is very inspiring is that at the end of the day, you are all saying in your own way, I would say that it all starts by us. Okay, and at the end of the day, it's very, I would say, Covey circle of influence, circle of concern that we are seeing here is we can complain about I would say, not being able to change by ourselves the entire world, but starting by our circle of focus and circle of possibilities and influence make the entire difference. So very inspiring for the answer. Thank you so much. Now we have another question. Beat, thank you also for your active participation and questions. I think we have partly answered, but I will ask it so that maybe you have some other ideas. Many argue that sustainability is in crisis today, given more pressing business issues. How do you see that? And how do you counter it? Okay, so I think we've discussed a little bit. One of the best, Ellen, you said was show the money, because it always works. Okay, so show them the money. And indeed, you went even very, very far. You showed them extra new revenue streams. So that's very exciting. But someone would like to give some perspective on overall is sustainability a bit in crisis today, and how do we see that, and how to counter? Maybe Anke?
Yes, happy to go ahead. And greetings to Beate. I think where we have to start thinking is that there are insurance companies like Munich Re or Swiss Re who have all modeled out what the risks are. The details are extremely clear. It's not just from scientists, but it's very clear what's going to happen. And unfortunately, we are exactly on this trajectory. And so step by step, via investors, via customers, we are getting the pressure is increasing. I can share an example where the biggest customer of ABB has started to rate all the products. It's a channel partner, the same way as Amazon does, with 1 to 5 stars. And because there is no standardization behind this reporting, there is a real sales impact. And so people are really waking up. Even the people in business who have not, I've been thinking, oh, it's a nice to have, and you have sustainability somewhere there and let someone else take care of it. There is a real business impact already today. And so given legislation, giving the need for transparency, people waking up, a lot of employees who actually want to contribute their part. I have no problem in terms of employee engagement. I have 100,000 people behind me. It's more how to channel this action. So I wouldn't call it in crisis. I think I know where Beate is coming from, but we see lesser sustainability-linked bonds, for example, for at the moment for refinancing. But I think this has different reasons. It's not that it's not becoming clear what the risks are. And the latest legislation that most of us are working on and focusing on that are on sustainability are requiring us to drive a level of transparency that will bring new action. And the interesting thing I heard on Friday was there will be plenty of these new CSRD reports for European and global companies. Who's going to read all of them? And they are not standardized, but AI is going to look and scan through all them. And there will be conclusions taken out. Whether they are right or wrong will be a different story, but people will have to argue back. So, and then more facts will come on the table, which I said are there, calculated. The models are all there, the risk models. So at least what I'm seeing in the boardroom and in the executive committees, there's a super high interest to understand what's the risk mitigation plan, what's the adaptation plan. We're not just talking now migration, mitigation, we're talking adaptation, because people start understanding that even if you protect your site from flooding, if the employees cannot enter the site, what is it worth? So there are all kinds of elements that are coming in, and depending on which business you're in. So I wouldn't call it if it's in crisis, it's for good reasons, because it needs to be in crisis so that people wake up.
Wonderful. What a nice way to, I would say, to highlight what must be done. Thank you very much. On my side, I don't have, I would say, any other question popping up in the Q&A that are there.
Sophie, could I add something to the last comment? I really don't believe we're going to get our way there by regulation. I've been disappointed, sitting in the United States when, events happened several years ago and we were pulled out of the climate change initiative. And that made me realize that we have to deal with this by pushing it ourselves. Whether it's how we vote or the companies we work in, to have them have sustainability programs, because it will impact them eventually. My last job after the juice business, I was working with a coffee company, and coffee demand keeps increasing and the coffee yield is going down because of climate change. And we may not have enough coffee to meet demand in the future unless we make some changes. So it is impacting us no matter where you look. And those companies that realize, hey, it's impacting my resources, are making the changes. Those that haven't felt it, they will feel it. So we can make a difference by pushing it in our companies, choosing how we spend our money in companies that are making a difference, and then also being the citizens out there demanding the change. And then one more comment I wanted to make about the water. I think the biggest thing around water is we need people to realize water's not free. In the United States, we treat it as free, and it is not free. We're starting to see that impact as well, not to the extent of some countries that have been in this situation a long time. But it's not only just the accessibility to water, it's the accessibility to clean water. Our infrastructure in the United States is old. And we need to invest in that. And we also need to find ways to conserve that resource. Back when I was starting my sustainability work, Deloitte & Touche partnered with some other companies and wrote a paper around water, the next resource that will be in demand. It's going to end up like oil, where everybody's going to fight for water rights and access to water. So we need to, I can't say this enough, we as individuals need to start making our own impact, as well as pushing those companies that we work for to have good sustainability programs.
Thank you, Ellen. I think it's a good bridge, right? Also to Beate's question, basically saying that we might see a recession of prioritization of climate action from governments, right, who have been continuously, year after year, diverted from that, since the Paris Agreement, through COVID pandemic, and then the first Ukraine and Russia conflict, or Russia aggression on Ukraine, and then multiple conflicts around the world that keep popping up, right, and require equally government attention, maybe on a more urgent scale, but that's still to be debated. The individual action is also the way, to get there, and that's where you also start seeing sometimes some tensions, right, with citizens demanding more action and government, struggling to meet that demand. So that's probably a bigger topic for another webinar. But very delighted to have had you on board, and exciting questions going way beyond current transition, which also shows the appeal of the topic. So a big thank you also from me to the panelists, to the audience, to Luan, Elsie, and Sophie, obviously, for enabling such a webinar. And delighted to continue the conversation with the audience if we can be of help into that journey.
Thank you all for joining. Wait, I see something else popping up. It's live. Thank you very much. Thank you, Valérie, for this inspiring webinar on a major topic for impact. Thank you so much for so many insights. Look, ladies, you've rocked. I mean, phenomenal. So wonderful to have you all. For me to conclude, two things. As I said at the beginning, definitely a concrete example of impactful leadership in action. And you are so inspiring. You change the world. You have also inspired each of us to make a small step for a huge difference. So I cannot thank you enough to be to have given us this energy. For everybody in the audience, thank you for joining. Also, I do a little bit of hard sell. If you want to join us on LinkedIn, we are really excited to create a bigger and bigger vibrant community. Also register on the newsletter. We'll have a lot to come, probably another online panel by the end of the July, a bit different on AI and digital, but exciting too, and a lot of topics coming by the end of the year. So just be part of the conversation. There is a topic very dear to your heart. There is a topic you want to make a difference. Reach out. We'll organize something in order to be able to make you, address the team and bring your contribution, because we want really to enable this meaningful connection. As I told you, this is our mission and definitely our vision. Thank you to all for these phenomenal, I would say, insights, and definitely see you all very, very, very soon in another event. Thank you, Julie, for your leadership in that. Thank you to all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Let us know if we can support you.
Yeah.
To the panelists, if you stay 2 minutes online, I take a picture. Okay.